was the biggest black eye in NBA history, a referee fixing games connected to the mob. For years, fans joked about rigged games and suspicious calls, until one man confirmed their worst suspicions. This is the story of Tim Donaghy, how he rigged NBA games for years, who helped him do it, and how the NBA may have covered it up.
By nature, the relationship between NBA referee and NBA player is contentious. That was before Tim Donaghy pled guilty to betting on games that he officiated.
Tim Donaghy wasn't just any ref. He was a respected official with over 700 games under his belt. He came from a family of referees, grew up in Philadelphia, and joined the NBA in 1994. By all appearances, he was just another guy in gray. But behind the whistle, Donaghy was a gambling addict. He played golf for thousands, bet on college games, and eventually, he bet on the one thing he had complete control over: NBA games. The early 2000s NBA was chaotic. Stars were larger than life, defense was brutal, and officiating was questionable. This created a perfect storm, a league full of drama, and a referee who knew how to tilt outcomes without raising a lot of eyebrows. Donaghy did not act alone. He linked up with Tommy Martino, an old friend, and Jimmy Batista, a known gambler with mob ties. Together they formed an insider betting ring. Donaghy would give picks, games he knew he could influence through foul calls, momentum shifts, and how tightly he would call certain players. They weren't just guessing. Between 2005 and 2007, the ring reportedly had a 70 to 80% win rate on bets, unheard of in gambling. The manipulation wasn't obvious, it was subtle, calling ticky-tack fouls on the team in foul trouble, extending games to hit over totals, letting star players get into rhythm or stopping them cold. Each whistle could shift the point spread, and millions were on the line. By 2006, the walls were quietly closing in. The FBI was running a broader investigation into organized crime and illegal sports gambling rings, not necessarily focused on basketball. But then, in the middle of wiretap transcripts and betting activity logs, a strange name kept surfacing: Tim Donaghy. Donaghy wasn't a gambler by reputation. He was supposed to be a clean cut. But when agents started pulling threads, they discovered something explosive. Over the previous seasons, someone was betting huge sums on NBA games Donaghy officiated. And not just betting, they were winning a lot. The betting action was unusually confident. High-volume wagers placed just before tip-off focused on very specific point spreads. These weren't casual bets. They were precise, calculated, and they were almost always right. Through wiretaps and surveillance, the FBI identified a small but tight-knit network of gamblers and insiders. At the center of it was Jimmy "the Sheep" Batista, a professional gambler with direct ties to organized crime. He had one thing others didn't: inside information, and that came from Donaghy. Donaghy was feeding picks to Batista and aforementioned Tommy Martino, who acted as a buffer. Martino would relay Donaghy's tips, and in return, Donaghy would receive thousands in cash, reportedly $2,000 to $5,000 per game. The operation ran like clockwork. Donaghy did not throw games suspiciously. He didn't need to. Instead, he used his intimate knowledge of players, referees, tendencies, and league politics to make informed predictions, and occasionally nudged the outcome. A questionable foul here, a key player benched early with 2 fouls there, a missed traveling call, all small things, but they move the line. And when you're betting on spreads or totals, small things are everything. The FBI cross-referenced 26 games Donaghy refereed during the 2006 and 2007 season. In nearly all of them, betting lines shifted abnormally before tip-off, and the bad won. By mid-2007, the evidence was overwhelming, and with the fast circling, the trio's relationship began to fracture. Donaghy started to panic. He knew what was coming. In June 2007, the FBI finally approached him. This wasn't just a minor infraction. He was looking at years in prison, ties to the mob, and a total fall from grace. Behind closed doors, Donaghy cracked. He agreed to cooperate, and that's when the scandal exploded into public view. The story dominated headlines. For fans, it was unthinkable. For conspiracy theorists, it was vindication. The league scrambled to respond, NBA Commissioner David Stern took to the microphones calling it a rogue official. He emphasized that Donaghy acted alone, that the integrity of the game was intact, but people were not buying it.
1 year and 3 months behind bars for disgraced NBA referee Tim Donaghy. He could have been sentenced to much more prison time under federal guidelines, but the judge gave Donaghy credit for his extensive cooperation with investigators.
Why would someone with a high-paying job, a national platform, and the respect of an entire league risk it all for the money he did not even need? To understand that, you have to understand what the referees are and what they're not. NBA referees aren't celebrities. They don't get endorsement deals. They're watched, judged, criticized, but rarely appreciated. Their decisions can shape billion-dollar outcomes, yet most fans don't know their names until they make a bad call. Referees exist in a world of ambiguity. There's rarely a correct call, just judgment. And when you spend years in the gray area, it becomes easy to rationalize your actions. I didn't change the game, I just knew how it would go. Donaghy had insider knowledge. He knew which refs hated which players. He knew when the league wanted to make an example of someone. He knew what kind of fouls certain crews would call and when. This wasn't guessing, this was advanced manipulation dressed up as officiating. But it didn't start with a full-blown game manipulation. Like most scandals, it starts small. Donaghy was a lifelong gambler. Golf, college, horses. He told himself it was for fun. But as the bets got bigger, he began to crave the thrill of certainty. And what's more certain than a game he controls? Studies show that the brain of a gambler in action mirrors the brain of someone on cocaine. The dopamine rush isn't just about money, it's about control, prediction, and validation. Donaghy wasn't just betting, he was winning. And when the wins kept coming, it only reinforced the idea that he was too smart to get caught. The NBA system did not stop him because the NBA system never imagined a ref could do this. Referees weren't monitored for gambling. Their relationships weren't tracked. Background checks were minimal. Travel and financials rarely audited. In other words, Donaghy was in the perfect position to cheat, with almost no oversight. Combine that with the NBA's culture of secrecy, where officiating assignments are made behind closed doors and explanations for controversial calls are often vague. And you've created a system that protects manipulation through opacity. In psychology, there's something called the God complex, the illusion of control when you operate in high-stakes environments where you're rarely challenged. Donaghy did not see himself as the villain. He saw himself as smarter than the rest of the system. He could beat Vegas, he could beat the league, and still call a clean game on national TV. He wasn't throwing games wildly, he was adjusting outcomes with a margin of plausibility. Tim Donaghy was sentenced to 15 months in prison. He never worked in the NBA again. The league introduced reforms, ref transparency, new batting policies, and background checks, but doubts linger. In a sport where one foul can swing a game, can you ever really be sure? The NBA says it's clean now, but in a league where billions are bad and whistles hold power, how far are we really from another Donaghy?